Hello there, I do hope you're doing well today. And today we're working on part 3 of the chapter 8, or Unit 8, on the resolution of the inversions of the dominant 7th chord, also known as V7. What I'm going to do is share my screen here and work through a couple of specific ideas that help to summarize what was covered in the other two parts of this topic. What's something that's interesting that is summarized here on page 96 at the top of the page of the level 9 Celebrate Theory harmony book is that when using customary voice leading, there are certain steps that we can follow. The 7th always falls by step in the dominant 7th chord. So in the key of C major, the dominant 7th chord would be G, B, D, F. So in this case, the F, also known as scale degree 4 in the key of C, would fall to scale degree 3, which is the third of the tonic chord. In that regard, the 5th falls by step. The 5th of the dominant 7th chord is also known as scale degree 2. In this case, it would be D falling down to C. The third, or also known as the leading tone, rises to the tonic. In this case, the note B of the dominant 7th chord rises up to C. And the root can maintain a common tone if possible. In this case, G to G. Now, there's something that's interesting that we can speak on when approaching the dominant 7th chord in a minor key, especially when using the 4 chord. Because as you know, in any minor key, we can have the harmonic minor and melodic minor. Now, as we know, when we have the harmonic minor scale, there is a raised leading tone, which is used as an accidental outside of the key signature. Now, the melodic minor, we have the raised 6th and raised 7th when we ascend or go up the scale. Now, something that's very interesting is that when we are using voice leading, especially going from the chord 4 to 5, there is the potential for parallel fifths because we have two different chords with two different spellings. But also, the important thing to mention is that the 4 chord as a minor chord can potentially create an augmented second if the third of the 4 chord is not handled successfully. In this particular case, where the highlighted yellow notes in the soprano are outlined, we have a C that is then moving towards the dominant 7th, where there's a movement with an augmented second. Now, something musically does not sound off-putting when playing that example, but something that is interesting, though, is that we have to remember that sometimes the material that we were writing is written for choral music, for singers. And so it's very difficult to sing an augmented second in tune successfully. Of course, with training, anything can be done, but in this particular case, it was considered not a very pleasant sound, especially in the Baroque period when a lot of the musical ideas and concepts were being developed. So as a rule, an augmented second is usually tried to be avoided when we are spelling out the 4 going to 5 combination of any inversion of the dominant 7th chord where we have the 4 chord as the predominant or the chord that occurs before the dominant of that type of cadence. Something else that's very interesting too is that we can still have the same progression but in this case there's a smooth voice leading because the augmented second is alleviated by rearranging the notes. So that's always something that's a really great idea to consider, is when there's the possibility for either parallel intervals or, in this particular case, for an augmented interval between two notes of the same voice. It's always good to just try to rejig or rearrange the notes in the particular chord that might be the problematic challenge, and see if there's another way to rearrange and revoice the notes to create a more successful voice leading option with no or fewer errors. So in this case, the third, which is incorrect in the soprano in the first example, is actually placed now in the tenor in the second example, and then as a result, there's smooth voice leading for within each of the voices of this entire progression. So basically, the nutshell is, if there's an error, try to rearrange the notes to see if you can alleviate it. So I do hope that this video was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much, and take care.